everyone, need something to get you going in the morning or the afternoon? Check out trenchcoffeeco.com. Trench Coffee originated in Las Vegas and is owned by a combat controller and his wife. They've been making coffee as a hobby for a couple of years and then decided they enjoyed it so much and they wanted to share the coffee wealth with everyone else. So check them out. They've got 10 different brews. They originally started with the Trench blend, but they recently started a new blend that is kind of my personal favorite, which is the Brazil Cerrado. I'm probably saying that wrong again, like I do in every single promo, but whatever. I'm educated in South Carolina, so you can deal with it. They also sell, apparel. They sell cold brew kits. They've got holiday packages going on where you can get a mug and some coffee. Their normal bag sizes are 12 ounces. They do have some samplers, so if you wanted to get a handful of sampler packs, you could do that. And if you want to go all in, they definitely have 5-pound bags that'll keep you stocked for quite some time. But if you go through coffee like I do, because it's so good, 5 pounds probably won't last you too long. But please go check them out. They are definitely friends of the podcast and have been for quite some time. And so we want to support them and they're supporting us. So we don't get anything from it, but please go check them out. Enter the promo code One's Ready to get you a discount. And then I know that sometimes they also, every time you buy a bag of coffee and use our promo code, they will send a bag downrange or at least put some money to the side to pay for sending bags downrange. So great company, great people. Jeff and Jerica are amazing. So go support them, check them out. Trench Coffee Co. That's trenchcoffeeco.com. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. You're in the team room with Aaron and I, and then we also have another guest. Well, I guess we can say Chief now. I'm not sure if you're wearing it or not, but we could say Chief Master Sergeant Mike Macias. Thanks for joining us. Before we go in, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're so important to the TACP career field?
The most pressure-filled intro
Yeah,
that you could possibly give us. Hey, can you tell us why you're a living legend in the combat control career field, and just tell us a little bit about yourself? Go ahead. That's a fantastic way to set a guest up for the absolute best possible way.
I got to leave it like that for Mike.
You really do. I really appreciate the kind words. I don't know exactly how important I am. I just know that I like to kick over rocks from time to time, but evidently some people like that, some people don't. But I am a TACP. I've been a TACP since day one. Did most of my time in the 17th STS, at JBLM first, and then I went down to Columbus. Went and tangoed with Peaches at weapons school for a little bit. Got done there. Did some more 17th STS, and then came back and just superintendent of the weapons school with the 66 whips, and then went and set up the TACP FTU for the next generation of TACP operators coming through, bringing them from 0 to hero, in 21 weeks at Nellis and Camp Bullis after the ATC pipeline. And now I'm at the Pentagon at half A3S and also working in half A57. So what that means is the A3S side is operations driven on current ops, and then A57 is really focusing on the way forward for the force at large. That's what I do. Someone said it was a good idea.
That's what I do. No big deal. Woo!
I like how nobody is going to have any idea. Like Peaches gave you the worst intro, and then you followed it up with like, all right, here's a bunch of stuff that nobody really understands, and now I do future stuff that you can't wrap your head around either. So essentially, welcome to the podcast, everybody. We've got a couple of hosts that don't know what they're doing, and Jason Bourne. So let's really get into it. So Mike, you're working. So for everybody that doesn't understand, like the A series, so you're still in operations, right? Because the A3 is operations. The 3 shop is always, what are we doing right now to actually cause the enemy a some sort of problem? We present them with a problem. That's what the A3 shop does. But really, A57 is, you're no kidding looking into the future. We get a lot of questions on, where is TACP going? What is the mission set going to look like? Are they going to take over the JTAC mission? All these other things. You are knee deep in that. So let's build it from the ground out. We're going to go a talk on. We're going to go small to big this time, though. Right now, you're looking at the next 3, 5, 7-year plan. And the number one question on everybody's mind is, we hear this rumor that TACP's mission strength is going down. Is that true? And if so, then what's up with it? Can you explain a little bit on that one?
Yeah, really, the thing is, the Air Force has to make some hard decisions on how we shape the force. And this is going to sound like the most bureaucratic answer. I'm going to do that front, but
Perfect. Our listeners love bureaucratic answers. They always, yeah, it's always really good in the comment section. They tell us how much they love bureaucratic answers to like top secret questions we can't answer. So
right.
continue.
And it is very frustrating from a guy who's been operationally focused, and that's what you get when you get up here to the Pentagon. But the reality is, there's a lot of things happening in the world. I don't have to tell you what's going on in Russia, and some of our other highly capable adversaries potentially. But the Air Force is making some tough decisions across the board, and not just with AFSPEC war or TACP, but with a lot of different capabilities and weapon systems the Air Force possesses. We're making hard decisions to make some cuts in order to create some space to get at some very relevant future problems that we potentially might be here even before we anticipate. So yeah, there's cuts across the board, but it's a challenge to everybody else to get innovative, think outside the box, don't be a linear thinker, and find solutions to how AFSPEC work and can get at some things that the Air Force needs it to.
Right, but it's not. It would be inaccurate and maybe not disingenuous, but it would definitely be inaccurate to say that like it's just TACP getting cuts or AFSPEC war getting cuts, because this is a Air Force problem. This is a Army Navy SOCOM problem at large, because we've been doing the OEF and all those other things for the last 20 years. So we grew a lot because we needed a lot of stuff in order to be combat effective and stuff like that. Well, now that that's gone, we've been spending like crazy, right? So we've got to check ourselves, and we've got to start making some cuts to save some money to optimize what we have, and what we're spending and what we're acquisition wise, so those cuts have to come out of somewhere. So, maybe it's equipment, maybe it's bases, maybe it's manning and stuff like that. So like it's across the board. It's not just, hey, TACP's taking a 50% cut, which is also inaccurate too, because I've seen that flying around the interwebs and conversations like, oh, TACP's taking a 50% cut, which is not true. I don't know if you want to touch on that at all, Mike.
TACP is being asked by the Air Force to, figure out what we are going to do in the next fight. This is my opinion. I'll give you my opinion on it. This is not endorsed by anybody. But when you do counterinsurgency for 20 years and you fight this fight that requires you to be around the populace, and I don't have to explain this to any of you guys, but it's like it requires a lot of manpower and it requires a lot of presence, right? And it's kind of how when you look at the TACP community, where it was 20 years ago and where it is today, is much larger. To facilitate, going out into combat, there's a lot of presence patrols. There's a lot of, engaging with the local populace in an insurgency, and it requires a bigger army, which means a bigger TACP formation. So I would say the DoD at large, my opinion, is scaling that back. We're not to say that we are abandoning the counterinsurgency fight, but we have major competition fights that are now happening that require a whole new set of capabilities that the Air Force is looking for. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the SECAF's operational imperatives, but what you can do if you really want to know, like, hey, why are there cuts, or what are we getting at? You can go to Google and Google Secretary of the Air Force's operational imperatives. It's not anything secret, but I think it's something good for people that want to know about the future and where we're going. And this kind of outlines where we're at as a force and what we're making our decisions for cuts or pivots in mission or modifications. It all evolves around defending resilient and effective space orders. So how is space and what we're doing in the future modernizing to support the second one, which is ABMS, that's Air Battle Management System, and JADC2. Like, that's another focus area. So how do we communicate with guys in the field, guys in the air, guys and gals, and bring the whole force together in a command and control perspective. Air dominance is the third one. What does the next generation of that look like, as well as achieving moving target engagement at scale. So how do you F2T2 in such a complex environment? That presents a lot of JADC2 or command and control challenges. And if I'm getting too gee whiz, you just let me know.
Well, you're getting very
getting
acronym heavy.
So acronym heavy. I told you started off strong, Mike, with plans that nobody's going to understand. We breezed right over, like we said that the 50% cut wasn't true. That's going to piss everybody off, and now nobody knows what these programs are, which is great. So here's my question for you, because I do understand what you're talking about, and I got super excited right now because people look at the TACP career field and they say, oh, well, there's not going to be that many patrols, there's not going to be that many things going on, and they say that is a bad thing, right? Because when people get in TACP, they want to go support conventional Army and they want to go put boots on the ground. But the things that you're saying right now sounds like an evolution of the TACP career field that's going to include stuff like cyber. It's going to include stuff like integrated Blue Force picture. It's going to include stuff that's really getting after great power competition in order to give those ground units we're supporting from the TACP career field, in order to give them an advantage on the battlefield. And that sounds like exactly what everybody wants to do. They want to get into that future fight. And it sounds like TACP is leading the way. So what kind of capabilities are you guys looking at adding on in order to support those ground forces with that future TACP capability?
So some of the things that we're adding on is, we talked about the Army, but if the Army doesn't get there, can we truly do our traditional mission? So, TACP looking to help the Air Force and the Air Component Commander solve some problems outside of just the Army. So I think one of the bumper stickers he had is TACP is more than just cleared hot. It's resonated with a lot of decision makers because of the capabilities that TACP has that facilitates, comms and creating data links and comm links with high priority assets. And what A57 is seeing is conceptually the value in perhaps using TACP in such a way that helps bolster air superiority, or JADC2, which is command and control, talking to the airplanes, long haul comms. Because TACPs, in order to be good at fires and calling in CAS, you got to be good at comms. And what the Air Force, needs solutions to is that kind of comm link picture and understanding an intent. So I think it was an untapped resource, and I believe the Air Force will see that there's really no better entity in the Air Force than ABSPEC War to understand ground commander's intent. In this case, JFAC, or Air Component Commander intent, and say, I need you to accomplish task A through Z, and I'm going to give you a critically thinking, high-speed, tactically minded, operationally focused airman who's going to go out there and solve some problems for you as the Air Force or the Navy to get at some very significant geographic tyranny of distance problems for the joint force. And that's completely agnostic of supporting the Army. We believe that it's viable. It's exciting. I'm jealous because the more we talk about how this evolution is going to look, I'm like, can I just go back and be a senior airman and do this mission? Because it sounds phenomenal.
It's the worst part, isn't it? That's the
It-
worst part of working in any of these, being in these conversations. There's always that sting in the back of your mind where you're like, I can't believe these new guys and gals are going to get after these problems. Like, as you're setting the table for these things to happen, it's always a part that I feel the same way. It's awesome. I love where the career fields are going, but I do the same thing where I'm like, man, this is awesome. F these dudes. You know what I mean?
And I'll take it one step further, because the Air Force, as lack of better term cuts, they are going to expect airmen to be multifaceted, just like they are with aircraft. So, how do you do multiple things for the Air Force? What can you do for the Air Force today is kind of where it is in my head. And the more you can do, the more versatile you are, the more agile you are, the more value is put that the Air Force can use you for a myriad of things. So, for example, taking some AFSPEC war assets and teaming them together. In particular, Guardian Angel and TACP have been making some money now in different theaters of operations. Seeing that together with the capabilities combined and fused creates quite a force enabling package for any commander in an AO who wants a little bit of comm, a little bit of fires, a little personnel recovery, and that is now translated into one of our concepts in Air Force Futures, where we are using and leveraging the capabilities of not only AFSPEC War, but into the larger Air Force and with Guardian Angel, TACP, and OSI, and using everybody's strengths to get at multiple tactical problems for the Air Force and solve some of these operational imperatives that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it's good to hear you say that, because in the past, you're right. It was always, hey, supporting the Army. The Air Force was supporting the Army, even though in reality the Air Force was leading the charge on your whole initial entry, shock and awe kind of deal. The Army and the Navy were the big proponents in that. But the Air Force is always used as supporting the Army. Now, with you guys doing that, and really solving Air Force problems, because we've always, but we have typically neglected Air Force problems because we're like, well, we're not the mission, so let's just fit in where we can and solve the problems as they come along. But now, like, there are some serious Air Force problems out there, and when I say Air Force problems, I mean tactical problems that have operational and strategic level impacts. So it's pretty cool to hear you say that you're bringing in GA, which we had kind of known a little bit of, but so you guys are doing that with OSI and bringing that even heavier now.
Yeah, we're bringing a capability without getting too deep into it, but that is essentially going to really enable Guardian Angel and TACP to be in a place to solve joint force, coalition force problems in AOs that traditionally the Army won't be there. So I'm being vague on purpose.
Yeah.
but the bottom line is we are seeing the fruits of teamed efforts within AFSPEC War and even outside of it. So the days of being in the stovepipes, at least here in AFA 57, and saying that this is what I do as a TACP and this is what I do as Guardian Angel, that is essentially going to go, dissolve into we provide these capabilities as Guardian Angel and TACP.
Well, that's good, because 10 years ago it was, hey, we're going to put tech, because of the CSAR mission and the PR mission, and there was not enough controllers to go around, which was historically an ST thing, all right? A CSAR package, 2 PJs, a controller, you go out and you do your thing, right? But like as ST started to kind of step away from that specific construct, RQSs and Guardian Angel still needed a JTAC. So we were going to start putting TACPs with those RQS units. But was like 10 years ago, and I know the billets had been moved and stuff like that, but I don't know if it ever, like, if TACP ever went all in on it or not. But like, I'm
tell
pretty
you, as the
excited about
guy,
this.
as the team leader 10 years ago, I was the guy asking for a TACP. I had 2 TACPs that went through my entire spin up out of the 58th Rescue Squadron in Vegas. They literally trained up with us the entire time to include FMPs. And when it came time to get him a spot to be like, hey, I want to take, Bobby was his first name, but I was like, hey, I'm ready to take Bobby right now. Like, I want him to come to this deployment with us and provide this capability. And we just could not figure it out, whether it was a faces problem or whether it was an attached forces problem. I don't know what it is, but this has been bubbling at the rescue units for quite a long time. Can our crows do that joint forward observer, that sort of, JTAC light duty that they've kind of been, moving to? Yeah, sure, they could, but that's not what the officer is supposed to do. The officer is supposed to command teams on the ground. And we had this awesome capability in TACP where we looked and we said, hey, these guys can provide us a specific capability that really fits into the Guardian Angel personnel recovery mission set really, really well, really well. So now we're seeing the advent of that, and it is a fantastic time for TACP, because obviously that means you get to come to the rescue units and kind of touch that side of it. And then from there on, those young TACP airmen can now go back to the larger TACP force and go, hey guys, there's an entire mission set out there that we're doing that's completely unique, and it's another lane for you guys to go get that experience, and that's awesome.
Well, I'd say you're a trailblazer, Aaron. and that on all your work was not in vain.
That's the only part I wanted to hear was the compliment. You know what I mean?
Here we are 10 years later, and we're definitely heading in that direction. And I mean, in all seriousness, like, we're seeing it in a lot of different MAGCOMs already. Your vision of what you guys were thinking, and it makes sense. Like, when we talk about it and we look at the capabilities, like, yeah, why weren't we doing this? It fits so many things that we're trying to get at, and what we're trying to meet the intent with the Air Force, and we need to optimize, right? What better way to optimize than optimizing the talent that we have? And not only, so you're not just one critically minded AppSpec War airman, dating myself with the Battlefield Airmen, but now you have 2, and they exponentially provide capability to the joint force. And even in the PRs, when we get to the highly contested environments against near peer foes, PR gets tricky, mainly because how do you get there? But if we can find a way to push TACP and PR capabilities of tactical edge in mass, that creates a PR network as well that the Joint Force and the JFAC can capitalize off of, in addition to the comms piece, which PR is a comms intensive and heavy process as well, which again only makes sense to have a little bit of TACP and GA love working together, which is and that's the proponent of a lot of our concept with A57 and getting into these future war games. We're like, hey man, how does this look? Give me the analytics behind it. How does it you get Nerd City in there, kind of giving you the crap data, and it looks highly compelling, and it looks like it actually is going to produce a lot of good things. Time will tell. We'll know back half of this year on more on where that stands in the future models, but we like what it brings to bear, and so do our PR counterparts in A3S. We've all been working really hard to see that the teaming is used in practice today, and then growing it to something that's exponentially better in the future, 10 to 15 years from
now. We're definitely going to have to link up sometime soon over a secure network, because I really want to hear about how you guys are integrating those 3 entities. But so aside from that, you and your office are specifically working on things, 10 years, 15 years and on. Any other kind of things out on the horizon that you guys are working on? And I understand that there's an ever-changing and evolving threat dynamic and world that we're living in. But that's a really cool nugget to talk about. I'm sure that there are some other things that you guys have got going on that you're working, right?
Yes, a lot of tech type solutions to get at low probability of of intercept and detection type things, because unlike a coin, the modern day adversaries that are near peer to us, they're going to know how to track you and look for you and see what radio frequencies you're talking on, and they're going to take away your ability to use GPS. And so we have to have TTPs, or exquisite solutions, which the Air Force isn't particularly like right now because they cost a lot of money. But we need technology that's going to help get at a lot of those things. So we have some solutions to stuff like that for comms and making sure that our survivability is enhanced. So if the bad guys want to get us, I'm going to present you a problem. You gotta find me in the clutter. So things like that, where I'm gonna create a picture for you that is going to require you to guess where I am, because everything looks the same, even though there's nobody there and stuff like that. So without getting too deep into it, but yes.
Well, that's what's funny is we know what you're talking about, but I'm sure there's some people that are pissed right now, just like, what? Please explain it.
So,
I asked you one question. I just asked you where TACP was going, and you refused to. Okay, Jen Psaki, like you refused to answer this question directly.
TACP is going in the direction of AFSPEC 14 with Guardian Angel. That is
Perfect.
the
I love
thing, it. Using the capabilities that we both have to support the JFAC and make sure that they have the opportunities to kill all the things they need to kill so we can win before the Army even gets there. And once the Army gets there, we'll high five the Army. We'll get back on our strikers and head out there and go get it on and fire some casts.
Yeah.
I don't think that, and we're not getting away from that capability. It is a core capability for TACP that a lot of people are depending on, and actually TACP's ability to integrate land-based counter land fires is what makes TACP so viable for the JFAC or for command and control, because we've already sown the seeds of that integration for fires, which now the JFAC needs to potentially solve some problems, and like we can do that for you. We can do it today. I've had conversations with people in Air Force futures where they're like, "Hey, you guys can understand this, translate it, and put it on a data link network with what the Army's going to do. Like, how long is it going to take you to get that capability full up?" I'm like, "I can do it right now." And they're like, Say word, you can do it right now. Like, yeah.
Say word.
Yeah. I said, yeah. Say word, you can do it right now. Like, yeah, I can do it today. And our guys are doing that. Out in USAFE, no secret that they're doing great work out there, and they're really innovating. And the TTPs are just keep flooding into me in my office here at 857 on some goodness coming out of USAFE for not only TACP but PR. We got guys, we have smart operators, much smarter than when I came in. The young guys are super smart, they're super capable. They're out in USAFE right now thinking outside of the box and producing TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures. They're solving critical tactical problems. I'm getting the feedback here, and I'm just plugging it into what we're going to do in the future. So I'm not doing anything future related. It's the staffs, it's the senior airmen, it's the techs out there that are getting after, that are coming up to with the solutions to these problems. And I would say, if you want to get behind and contribute to that, those are the guys we need. We need the critically minded, problem solving type people that can think outside the box and come up with some non-linear ways to beat the enemy. Because at the end of the day, I was in a brief, I think last week, and everyone was talking about the objective, and they bring up, resources or cuts or blah, blah, and hey, Sergeant Macias, do you got anything? I said, the last time I checked, the only objective was to win. And that's what we have to do. So in AFSPEC war, we're getting at winning, and that's what we're doing. So.
Well, we talk about it on the podcast all the time. To our listeners, we say, we're not the right guys for the next. They're like, oh, where are we going the next 10 years? What are we doing the next 20 years? And we tell them right now, we're like, we're not the guys. We are not. If you put me into assessment and selection right now, I might not be the PJ that we need going forward. I think I'm hearing that from you talking about TACP as well. Like, we're going in such a direction that we need a different type of airmen to come in to be in TACP. So for those people that have thought about TACP before, but they're kind of like stuck in that GWAT, straight up JTAC sort of mindset, what type of airmen are you looking for to get after these problems that you're defining?
You're exactly right. The guys we have now are way better than me. There's no way in hell I would have made it in. But what we need.
Amen. Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah. They're thinking about firing me right now, just on site.
They should with me, that's for sure. No, we need critically minded, spatially aware, good teamwork oriented airmen. And that is the biggest one. If you had to tell me what is the biggest attribute that a TACP needs today? And the biggest attribute I would say is being a critical thinker. Because when you look at the places that we're going to put people in the future and the level of responsibility that we're going to be giving a TACP, or really any AVSPEC war operator, period, you're going to. So we thought we had a lot of autonomy being a JTAC and just saying cleared hot, dropping bombs. The decision matrix is going to get even more complex. We're talking about potentially you getting delegated controls down to you to go do bad things to the enemy. And as an E5 or an E6, leading a team of people to go do it. And so you have to be a critically minded, spatially aware, teamwork-oriented person and be able to bring that together. So anyone that's thinking about TACP, if you think it's just kind of knuckle dragging, dropping bombs, I need you to be a critical thinker first and foremost, because the enemy's going to throw a lot at you, and you got to be able to make decisions on the fly.
Well, and to dive in a little bit deeper, that we're talking about, decentralized control type of thing. So you're out there, and going back to your comment about, staying within the clutter, building that picture for people. Like, if you're out there and you're that team, or you're that, few people entity, you may not have the chance to reach back and ask for permission. You've already been granted the authority. You've already been granted the permission, if you will, to execute said thing. And you got to be comfortable and have the ability to do that, because you can't reach back all the time and go, hey, are we still good to do this? No, that's what it is. And you got to be able to assess the situation and the environment and essentially change what you're going to do on the fly, and be confident and comfortable in doing that and making the right decision. Because, and I know we've talked about it before, is there was a time, whether it was Afghanistan, Iraq, that, if a bomb hit the wrong target or didn't hit its intended target, that was essentially a no-go. You're out of country. Your organization is out of country.
Yeah.
Like, that happened. So there are major consequences, not just with, loss of life, which is huge, but also consequences of getting your ass booted right out of country, wherever that is.
Yeah, loss of credibility for your entire organization. You're not just a bad JTAC, you're a bad Air Force JTAC. And now all Air Force JTACs are inherently bad. Like, we've lived those lives, and I've seen it with different teams too. You make one tactical mistake and it really does have strategic ripples through the communities. And it really does affect, that credibility, that freedom to operate. So, man, I can't imagine the burden that you guys are taking on, and we've kind of danced around the topic, and we're all leaning out, right? We're becoming multi-capable airmen. We're doing more with less. Is there anything that you think that is a holdover in TACP? You're like, hey, this is the appendix of being a TACP. We don't need it anymore. We don't know what it does, so we're just going to cut it away. Is there anything that you guys are leaning out of the playbook to get after some of these intent, or to get after some of these objectives or the intent moving forward?
No.
Sweet. All right, good. Yeah. Good. That's it.
The short answer.
That's the only answer.
No.
Solid.
I need you to do more and be
right.
better at more things. And not and they're not. We're not getting any. We're not adding anything that wasn't in our wheelhouse. We're just asking TACPs to be more specialized, even more specialized in the things they say they can do, which isn't bad. But one would think that when you start fighting a more capable enemy, you're going to have to be a little bit better at your craft. It's not. You're not going to have air superiority. You're not going to have fire superiority. It's up to you to figure out a way that we can do that. So, no, we're just going to make you be better at TACPing. Like you must be more capable.
So probably a refocus, like, hey, we're instead of some of this chaff that's on the outside, we are going to enable the ability to better focus and better train to those specialties and the basics.
Yeah, and quite honestly, like some of it's not going to be that sexy. It's not going to be talking on the radio and draw. Some of it's just going to be you, a gray man, and I don't think sometimes you won't even know how much you are facilitating in a joint fight. But the link that you create off of your ability to facilitate comms and reach back, you're not going to know the full extent of what the capability was that you delivered or facilitated. But it's going to be super important. And I guess humility would be another quality that we would need our guys to have is, I don't need General Custer charging into the Indians. I need somebody with patience and understanding that says, I know my place in the big picture. I know what I am required to do, and I'm going to execute that mission, at all costs because the Joint Force requires it.
Yeah. Humility take you a long way.
Well, that it might even be, I just see again, because I am an early adopter to these sort of things. I see, I can see a future conflict where you really need that critically minded airman on the ground to give that, even if it's just, hey, I can tell you that looking at this battle space, this is the weak point. This is where you need to press. This is where you need to mass forces. This is where we need to mass fires. I can see and imagine that coming from an E5, a decisive battle point where you need to, no kidding, make a huge impact. And he steps out of that, he steps into that lane and he just hits a home run. I had a team leader when I was doing layer 1 PR that used to tell me that he's like, hey, never miss an opportunity to just shut up. But if anything comes inside your lane, you need to absolutely hit it out of the park. You need to hit a home run and then you need to go right back into your lane. That's how you're actually going to be a valuable part of this joint enterprise that's going on. And I hear a lot of that as what you're saying from TACP is they're going to be at a very low level, by the way, E4s, E5s, being able to stand up in that mission planning room and go, hey, I know you guys are thinking about a bigger picture, but this is the decisive point. This is the key terrain. This is the area that I need you to focus on. And TACP is going to have a voice in that talk from what it sounds like. Yes.
And you're spot on. With what you said.
All right, good. I like these black and white questions. They really work well in the comments. So we can go back and read. Did you watch the episode? When we get the question, we're just going to go, did you watch the episode? He said, yes, it was awesome.
I like how you're alluding to the E4, E5, E6 though, because in reality, that's, if you do work with the Army, using that example, like an E7 is usually within 7 years, if you will, especially if it's an ODA. It's not a big thing to be an E7, E8, even a sergeant major, E9 in the Army, because those are the dudes that are making decisions, right? Whereas our Air Force airmen are, E3, E4 out there attached to them, or making the same level of decisions as they are, and being able to, knock it out of the park, if you will, stand up and say, hey, I recognize that this is what's, being said or what's required, but I think we should be able to go in this direction. Having that, the fortitude and the courage to get up and say and go against the grain as a brand new airman, but also having the ability to articulate and showcase, no, this is actually the direction we need to go, and then have that kind of, that grit to follow it through, I think that's important.
It is. One of the quick stories I always tell TACPs is when I, being an airman, I was a A1C, I think. It was a C or airman or A1C. We did some stuff. We dropped a bomb. We got back. The sergeant major came over to me and was like, "Who is in charge of you?" You know, I'm like, "I'm just the only. I'm the only one here." And, you know, and he's like, "But somebody somewhere is in charge of you." And you're like, they are not.
Okay, fair. Yeah, the president. I mean, do you want to start from the top and work our way down, or what are you getting at, Sergeant Major? How can I help?
Yeah, and to not, you know, to get to the point of the story is at the end when he finally figured out that I really was the only guy at the outstation we were at. He said, "The Air Force is crazy," and I said, "Why?" He goes, "There's no way in hell the Army would send a E4 to go do what you're doing." But you know, and he just saw me in work, like we dropping GBU-12s off of F-14s. It's also dating yourself. But yeah, and I was just plumb tickled at work. I was like, "Holy crap! All this training that all these dudes gave me, it actually worked, and it's cool." And I think that's a great thing. That should be the things that you kind of value as a TACP. Is like, I really didn't care about accolades or whatever. It was like I did my part in the mission. Like, to your point, I knocked it out of the park, and then I sat back down and kept doing airman things. And it blew the Army away. They were just like, wow. And we're going to need more of that in the future. We're going to need like that capability times 10, where they can really understand. So for me, it wasn't that complex. It was, there's a bad guy, there's a bomb, there's an airplane, do it. We're talking multi-domain in the future now. We're talking maritime, air, space, cyber. So when you really look at mine, I was like, I was a 2D girl in a 2D world and a 3D-ish. You know, so they're going to be,
Sure, yeah.
the tactical problems are going to be a lot more robust. And that's why we bring the critical thinking side to the house. And I would say that really is all of AppSpec War. I mean, I'm a TACP, I'm talking to TACP stuff, but when you work in A3S and where I'm at in the Pentagon, you know, we're advocating for all of AppSpec War's equities across the board, agnostic to, you know, what job you do. AppSpec War moving forward together, I believe, is we're stronger and we're more lethal when we fuse efforts, and that's what we do up here in the Pentagon level.
Yeah. I didn't know, Mike, that you like, so switching gears a little bit, going to the FTU, I either didn't know or I completely forgot that you went and stood up the FTU for TACPs. I heard that right, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Can you dive in on that a little bit? Like what the purpose of an FTU is and kind of what its construct is, like what the goal is of it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's called a formal training unit because it takes the likings of the pilot program for Air Force pilots. So as you know, every weapon system in the TACP is considered a weapon system in the Air Force has a formal training unit. We did not have that up until October of 2020. So we, as a MDS or weapon system, decided that, you know, that we needed to have this kind of standardization of operating the weapon system, and that's what an FTU does. An FTU shows an airman how to operate and employ the weapon system. And up until that point, that process was being done piecemeal by operational units. So what you're compromising there is there was really no standard of employing the weapon system across the board. It was kind of, you were at the mercy of whatever operational TACP unit you were at that trained you up. So what that hurts is we're not standardized, so you don't get a common product across the board. And what makes it more problematic is we were supporting adjacent units. You know, some TACPs were supporting a unit that they weren't even attached to because there was so much going on. So how do we get some commonality in capability? In the FTU, in the stand-up of the FTU, was a significant part to right some wrongs that had been happening in the community. So to get to the FTU, you obviously go through the AETC portion of the TACP training, and you go AppSpec War Prep, you go through your 3-level course, you go through your jump school, you go through your SEER, and then when you finish all that, you would go do 16 weeks. So you'll go to the FTU, you'll do 16 weeks at Camp Bullis, Texas, to go over basic TACP upgrade. And when I say upgrade, it's to get you to the 5 level, or really the journeyman side of the house. And then we start getting you into pre-JTAC academics, and we're prepping you to become a JTAC and giving you all the prerequisites, like if you were taking prereqs in college to go to a different course. You got to get these prereqs done before you go to the main part. And then that's when you finish that, you do 5 weeks at Nellis Air Force Base in Vegas, and that's your finalization, your culminating part of the course, where you walk out with your JTAC certification. And why does that matter? Well, because that's not the way it always was. As a TACP, you'd get to your operational unit and you kind of maybe do your upgrade, sit in a holding pattern for your JTAC upgrade. No one really knows what it is, when it's going to be, and then it just happens. So we have a product walking out of the FTU that is essentially plug and play into an ops squadron that is ready to, train up for deployment or tasking and be operationally worldwide capable, and gives us some efficiencies in what the ops squadrons have. So I don't know if that answered the question.
No, it did. I asked because, Combat Control doesn't have an FTU. Neither does SR. PJs, you guys do. But score. Kobe.
No big deal. We got there first. I'm not saying, but I am saying. We saw a need for it. We've been a weapons system the longest. Listen, we don't have to do this, guys. All right. I don't want there to be animosity between us. But the FTU, like we're joking about it, but that was one of the big things. Even when we were standing up our FTU, we were like, come on, we already kind of do this as a unit. But we've standardized all those things that you're saying. We had a need for it as well. We need to standardize when we say that somebody is ready to be an element leader or a 5 level in our world. We need to be able to have a standard, be like all ELs, all 5 levels do this. And the FTU has really cleaned that up for us. Jump master procedures and TTPs, SOPs, advanced employment functions. The FTU really does formalize all of those things really, really well.
Yeah. And the beauty of where the FTU and what the FTU does is the FTU gives the weapon system, whether it's Guardian Angel or TACP, the ability to rapidly evolve training for world problems. The FTUs reside in the same AGCOM as the operational side, so they can instantly take feedback from the field and implement change to ensure that our standardization process is not only standardized but relevant to what the ops squadrons need, which is another really crucial point, because if we were doing the disparate training not connected, one squadron may have made the correction, but another one didn't. So this just ensures that we are producing relevant tactics and employing them to our new TACPs as they come in, so they're just as capable as the guys at the unit when they show up.
Yeah, and for the listeners, it's not that Air Education and Training Command is not doing its job. It's just that is an enormous monster. And whenever things, like Mike said, things that are changing out in the environment and the operational picture changes, AETC can't necessarily, move that big ship quick enough. And that's why, when you say that the FTU falls within that operational MAGCOM being Air Combat Command for Guardian Angel or TACP, you guys can look at what the current environment is and what new TTPs are out there, and you guys can adjust very, very quickly, a lot quicker than AETC can. So just throwing that out there for education purposes. Yeah.
I like how Mike the entire podcast has been like, yes, no, true, cool. That's awesome.
Mike, you just want to go jack some steel. Mike's a big Olympic lifter. I don't know. You were anyway. I don't know if you still are.
I am. I gotta back down. I'm getting old, so things start to hurt a little bit now. But still getting after it though.
Good.
Nice.
Well, hey man, we're gonna wrap this up. Before we do, we like to ask people's advice. What they would give advice for the demographic, usually 15 to 35-year-olds, that some have no Air Force experience or anything like that. So like, what advice would you give to those that are wanting to come in to be TACP?
The advice that I would give to someone wanting to come in to be a TACP would be to know yourself, know your limitations, and know your strengths, so that when you come into the team environment, and teamwork is key, you must be a team player, you can articulate to your team what you're good at and most importantly, what you're not so good at. We don't expect you to be perfect. We don't expect you to be Universal Soldier Dolph Lundgren, but we do expect.
Yes.
We do.
I mean, that would be pretty cool, though. Like, you'd have a lot. That's Dolph Lundgren was the multi-capable airman. He could do it all.
It's basically, I got a poster of Universal Soldier in my office. That's what success looks like. But I digress. Yes, you need to be able to work with the team, and you need to be able to let the team teach you. You need to be coachable. You need to be moldable. So know your strengths, know your weaknesses, be a team player, and be coachable and moldable. If you can do those things, the things that you aren't so good at, your team will help you be good at. And vice versa, the things you are good at, you will help your team be good at. And I think that would be my advice.
I'll take it. Well,
Nice.
Appreciate you joining us. For everybody out there, don't forget to check out everything that we're done. But we've gone very just Mike. I know you're not really on social media, but we have gone very TACP heavy in the last week or so because we had Tommy Case on, just dumping info out there. Had Nasty on a couple weeks ago. Got you on. So we're really making a big TACP push right now because we kind of neglected you guys for a little bit. Not out of purpose, just. Man, it's crazy, but
Yeah, I still love
yeah, that's all right.
I still love you too.
Don't worry. I got a whole bunch of TACPs on a text chain, which Mike, that will rip me apart. It's all good. I'll take it. But again, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Don't forget to leave us a review, like, subscribe, the whole deal. Check out the store if you guys want. We got some new merch up there, and we're out here. Light up.
Thanks for coming on, Chief. Later. Train hard.